Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. I have finally returned after 5 weeks of just pure nonsense, and I am very keen to get back into the verse in 3.17.2. I've had a number of issues. To some people the patch has been excellent. It's only in the last day or so for me personally that I've managed to stay in game long enough to do what I want to do. I've had various bugs. Elevators giving me a rough time, invisible walls, numerous 30Ks, pulling my hair out. But finally things have sort of settled down for me. The game's in a good place for me now, and we're going to kick things off with the mighty Centurion, a new ground vehicle that has just recently joined us. It is a Connie on wheels as far as I'm concerned. This thing packs some serious firepower for a ground vehicle. It is very cool, obviously based off the chassis of the Ballista and the Spartan. This ship is really cool, and there's some cool implementations now that we have more options for ground vehicles. I previously made a video saying, you know, I want more ground vehicles in the game, and lo and behold, here we are, we're getting there, and it's awesome. If you want to see that video, I'll put a link up somewhere at some point. Anyhow, why is it important that we're getting more ground vehicles? Well, in terms of player interactions with certain missions, I personally, now that we can have AI navigating the planet and landing dropships, I honestly don't think it'll be too long before we get, take your typical bunker mission for example, where we could have, you fly towards the bunker site, it's only the turret guns, you can either just land next to it because sometimes it doesn't shoot you and other times it does shoot. You can just land behind a little bit of cover and get out and go murder everyone in the bunker. Now with the arrival of this particular Centurion and maybe a Ballista, let's have some of these parked outside the bunkers, yeah? Something else to make life a little bit more tricky for the player, maybe up the reward for surviving that onslaught. So there's a lot of potential for ground vehicles. I like where it's going, and the Centurion is something you will definitely want to avoid when trying to land next to a bunker. It's really cool. There are some issues with it in terms of maneuverability, but for pure fun and destruction, this thing packs a bloody massive wallop. Okay, it has 4 Rhinos, as you can see, towards the rear of the vehicle, and an Attrition 3 on top for the driver to control. So it is designed to be operated by 2 people. However, you can quite easily operate this solo. You won't get the maximum potential out of it, but nonetheless there is enough firepower there to compensate for that, in my opinion. It's around £91, which is a little bit cheeky, I feel. It's a little bit cheeky. I think the Ballista's 120, so it's around $100, $130 for the Ballista, I believe, off the top of my head. It's a little bit cheeky for what they are. Nonetheless, it is still really cool. I haven't purchased one. This is a subscriber reward, and I thought, right, well, we'll take a look at it. So with the arrival of the Centurion, there's a lot to look forward to. I just gave an example with the bunker missions. I think if we can get the AI operating this machine, it's going to be really cool. 4 Rhinos then, okay? Now we know that even a stock Connie pumps out a ridiculous amount of DPS, and anything a Connie heads on, there's a good chance that the Connie's going to wreck it. But now we have that firepower located on a turret on the rear of a ground vehicle. That is awesome. I can see organisations that are almost certainly going to want some of these, especially in way down the line, way in the future, when we get to colony building. 1 of these, 2 of these, 3 of these, a couple of ballistas, you're golden. You know, you're not going to need a dedicated air escort, maybe 1 or 2 ships for the larger orcs, but I think with a few of these on duty, it's going to be very tough to get your colony robbed or destroyed by other orcs. I don't know, just you know, I think running into a few of these is going to cause some issues. The Attrition 3, obviously, a nice little touch, and you can swap these weapons out. However, I just feel there is absolutely no need to do so. I'm quite happy with the Rhinos and the Attrition 3. The Attrition 3 is sort of your anti-infantry weapon. and it's non-ballistic, which is nice. That's why I wouldn't change it. Ballistics are really, really cool, don't get me wrong, and the DPS is pretty impressive, but worrying about ammo is something you don't really want in a ship, a ground vehicle that's designed to protect your airspace, right? It just seems a little counterproductive for me to be swapping them out. So you've got an anti-infantry weapon that can also double up as an anti-ship weapon. There's no reason why you couldn't target ships with this. The gun depression on the Attrition 3 does tend to be a little bit more respectable. There are certain blind spots with the rear of the turret on the Centurion, but I will come to that later. I can physically show you the firing arc of the turret so you can know what to expect with this thing. But I am very pleased that we are slowly getting more ground vehicles, you know, including the Mule, which is awesome. That thing is great. You know, let's keep this steady treacle of ground vehicles. Keep them coming, because I like the diversity and the ideas they sort of come up. We do need a new one now. I think this chassis has been used a little bit too much, but I have high hopes for more ground vehicles in the future. In terms of maneuverability, this thing, its steering is very tight, the steering doesn't offer up much in ways of turning angles, right? It's got a very wide turning circle, very much like the Titanic. But I still feel, it doesn't feel heavy enough. When I was driving this, I know gravity comes into play in space, obviously, but this thing, I don't know what it is. It still just does not feel like a heavy machine. You know, it's very weird how I can describe it. I think it needs a little bit of tweaking, personally, to make it feel like a solid piece of military equipment. Other than that, the steering angle is horrible, as you can see, but the cockpit is what you would expect. It's all very nicely done, various MFDs, but the turning angle of that steering wheel is pretty horrific, and maneuvering this thing in and out of ships and off the landing pads and areas like that are a little bit tricky. But we have the two pedals, a go and a stop pedal, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I do like it. I do like the Centurion very much. I think it's going to make good times for things like Jumptown. I am going to try my best to get one of these to Jumptown and see just how well it performs. Whether or not I make it there in one piece is another question. But it is a good machine. 4 Rhinos, an Attrition 3, you know, off the Ballista chassis. Again, the maneuverability isn't all that good. I just wish it felt heavier, in my opinion. It just feels really light. A bit go-karty, if I'm honest. So I think a few tweaks just to make it feel heavier. I don't know why. It just, I think that's an area that the most ground vehicles need, to be honest. You know, the Nova tank skates around like it's a go-kart, for example. So here, you can see a Cutlass Black landing next to my ship. Obviously, I'm like, oh, hell no. What's he doing with my little Hornet over there? Jump in the gunner's seat. Enter remote turret. And as you can see, the gun depression at the front is non-existent, because obviously we have the Attrition 3 in the way and the cockpit. So just be aware of that. Towards the rear of the ground vehicle, the Centurion, you will get much better depression and much better angle of fire. But the gunner itself, he has very little in terms of controls. He has 2 MFDs, which you can control the weapons and comms, but very snug in there, at the back, out the way. Nothing really different in terms of the other models. Now it will have some advantages and disadvantages. You know, it is a large ground vehicle. Don't forget we've got the Tumbrils and their anti-air capabilities. I think deploying a Centurion will require a little bit of planning. After all, it's quite large, be fairly difficult to transport if you haven't got a C2 or an M2 or anything like that, where Tumbrils are sort of, in my eyes, will be used as sort of like hot drops, a rapid response vehicle with their anti-air capabilities. But for setting up shop and having someone sit in the turret and gunning everything down, you're going to want a Centurion to protect your assets, I would have thought. Alongside a Ballista, there's a lot of firepower to be dispelled across the verse in terms of the anvils. But that doesn't mean the Tumbrils won't be any good. Like I said, a rapid response would be perfect for the tumbril solution in terms of anti-air capabilities. Now, as you can see, driver does get access to the Attrition 3. The gun depression is fairly good. If they're within sort of 10-30 meters, you'll be able to kill people to the right and left. As you move the gun towards the rear, that's when you're going to have that depression pointing towards the sky. So just be wary of that. And then we're going to hop in this gunner seat so I can show you the rotation and firepower that we have at our disposal. So 4 Rhinos, 226 rounds each, and it's quite a long sustained fire rate. I actually thought the capacitors would drain much faster, but they don't. They just go on and on and on, and that is a hell of a lot of DPS being put towards targets that you don't want there. Now, as you can see, moving towards the rear of the ground vehicle itself, you get much better ground clearance and depression, so maybe the opportunity to clear any infantry that are sneaking up to you to plant C4. Hopefully that's the thing in the future, because that would be awesome. But overall, the traversal of this turret is superb, apart from the front where the gun depression is pretty lackluster. But certainly a lot of firepower here and a lot of fun to be had. Again, ideally I would like to get to Jump Town and try it out, so stay tuned. I will try to do that. I'll see how lucky I get. Right, let's begin our walk around then. I like to do this because it gives you a sense of scale. It's very hard to gauge the size of a vehicle when you're in it and you're using the camera. But as you can see, it's very chunky, 8 wheels, poor steering, quite high off the ground. We have the massive turret at the back with the 4 Rhinos. We do have stabilizers on board this Centurion, which is pretty cool, so you can get into the cockpit, deploy those, and then you become static and stable and able to destroy everything that's giving you a hard time. It does look really cool at the back. I like the look of this Centurion, I really do. It does look like a cool military vehicle. Big, thick, chunky tires, obviously the stabilizers. We have a ladder which is covered by an armor plate, I think. I'm not sure why that's there. I'm not sure if that opens. I couldn't get that to sort of swing open to access that ladder, because again, don't forget in the future that maintenance will be a thing and swapping components could be an issue, so that seems to be covered and I couldn't unlock it for now. Moving around the front, we have the very high mud guards, again 2 more stabilizers, some headlights which I feel are not bright enough for this vehicle. There is very little light coming out of those headlights, which means navigating can be a little bit tricky in conditions like this. You don't see them, the lights don't seem to work all that great in my opinion, so maybe that could do with a little bit of a tweak. But as you can see, full 360 around the vehicle. It is big, it is chunky, it feels tough. So let's get inside and almost knock myself out with the steel ramp. That would have been amusing, I have to admit. So we enter through the back. We have components, power plant, a button here with the turret that we've just hopped into. We'll have a look at this. So you get 2 basic MFDs. There's very little information on this MFD. You have access to guns and missiles. Obviously we don't have any missiles, so that's irrelevant. I think probably the most important MFD here would be the one showing the comms, so talking to other anti-air units if you've detected something and getting a coordinated defense going will be important in the future. I have no doubt about that. We have this that doesn't work and this that doesn't open, but these ones do. We have components in here. These will all be size 0, being a ground vehicle, so that'll be your coolers and power plant, etc. All stowed away. Opposite that we have a weapon rack for 2 weapons. I personally would like that to be 4, because if there's 2 people in here they can carry 2 weapons, but they're gonna have to share a weapon rack each. And then we do have access to lights with various settings, which is a nice touch. CIG did say that they're going to add that functionality to all their vehicles, so the ability to change the mood lighting is pretty cool. Not a lot of space in here, why would there be, but enough for the 2 crew members to move around freely. And then we come to the front of the Centurion, hop in the cockpit. and we're greeted by a nice tidy MFD system sort of wrapped around the driver at the front with all the information we need, capacitors and radar slap bang in the middle, which is where you'd want it in an anti-air vehicle. And here we have the switch for the stabilizers. That raises the vehicle up and you are nice and steady and ready to start murdering all of those people that are giving you grief in your territory. So fairly simple, but a very well thought out, tidy cockpit for this Centurion. I do like it. Very similar to the Ballista, if not exactly the same. So well thought out, very cool. So Attrition 3 and 4x4 Rhinos, excellent firepower. In terms of armor, I don't think it's going to take too much to blow up, to be honest, and we'll see how it plays out. Hopefully I can get one dropped into Jump Town, or maybe call one near to Jump Town and spend ages driving there. I haven't figured it out yet. We'll see, because I really want to see just how deadly this thing will be, and can it take a punch? That is my question. The other good thing is, of course, you can drive the vehicle using that turret view with the Attrition 3, which gives you excellent situational awareness, so I do like that. That is a nice touch. So overall, guys, a very potent ground vehicle. I do like that we're getting more ground vehicles. I hope we see more in the future. Maybe something different than Anvil. Maybe a different variant of tank would be nice as well, but steadily we're getting there in the ground vehicle sort of side of the game, which is nice. There's plenty of tumbrils and things like that, but let's get some more military cool stuff going, I think. So there we go, guys. That was my quick look at the Centurion. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, you know what buttons to press. I'm going to try and visit the Reclaimer site next. That'll be my next video, because I really want to see just the detail in that, because from what I've seen it looks amazing. So hopefully that comes to fruition. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Take it easy, and I will have more Star Citizen content en route to your location soon. Cheers.